So I had a little more luck. And I know I complain about the fact that like it's getting harder and harder to find stuff at thrift stores. And I don't go in them as much as I used to. Back in the 90s and the early 2000s, I would hit at least two, having some troubles, thrift stores a day. Like I would, there were, I kind of lucked out in that I grew up in an area where there were lots. And then there was there was a big city, Toronto, and then there was a sort of big city, Hamilton, and I was in the middle in Burlington. And there was tons of thrift stores. Literally, if you wanted to go to a thrift store every single day, there was a different one to go to. Um, and at that time, there was tons of stuff. There wasn't really as many people looking, um, but it was a glorious time. In my head, I still sort of compare that time to now, which isn't really fair because that was the 1990s. It was a whole different world. Um, Now, I don't hustle as much as I used to. I've sort of, I don't want to use the word given up on thrift stores, but I don't hold a lot of hope when I walk in anymore. Um, that being said, occasionally I still hit. Like I'll go at least once a week to there are two thrift stores that I hit every week, and only because I have to do something else that's right near those thrift stores, and it's kill time I go in. Um, for those who don't know, I own I just call it a junk shop, but it's like a nostalgia collectibles store. I have been here for 20 years. I carry everything from vintage clothing to vinyl records to mid-century modern furniture to Scandinavian glass to Italian pottery, all the good stuff. Stuff I personally enjoy. Because that's the great thing about this I call it a job because it is. This is how I make my living. Um, I get to buy cool stuff. I don't get to keep it all, obviously, but I get to live amongst it. And for me, that's kind of the payoff. Because you don't, I'm going to tell you this now, you don't get rich doing this. Anybody who tells you you do, they're just probably trying to sell you a course or something on YouTube. I could do that. I could sell you a course. I could tell you all kinds of things, but I wouldn't pay for it if I were you. But this past week, I went in and I was having an okay day because I walked out with like two records and two CDs, which I know sounds a little pathetic, but that's a good day. And I was about to walk out the last thrift store when I looked up on the wall and saw something that immediately pulled me in. I thought it was such a cool piece. Certainly not the kind of thing that the average appreciator of art would be into, but I love modern art, and this had that certain sort of look to it that immediately dragged me in. But I saw it and I didn't know that much about it. Um, and as this thumbnail that I put up, it's a little clickbaity, but it's not because it's pretty much accurate. Um, I bought the thing, and I'll show you how much I paid for it. It's a painting, and it's pretty cool. Well, it's not for everybody. Most people are like, God, I would never pick that thing up. The irony of it is that I was standing in line with a lady, and she was looking at it and going, "Why would you want that thing? Why would you want that thing? It's hideous." And admittedly, it is not a flowery, happy painting. It looks a little dark. It looks a little odd, but it kind of challenges you. And that's what drew me in. So we'll go look at that right now. I'll show you what I got. Okay, so yeah, I know that, and I mentioned this, I believe, in the preamble there, that thumbnail might seem a little clickbaity and not really the kind of thing that I do very often. But on this one, I think you'll find it's not inaccurate. So, as I mentioned, I was having for me personally, an okay day at the thrift stores. I don't find that much very often anymore. So I walked into the place, I'll show you the stuff that I got first, sort of to set the mood, if you will. I walked into the Value Village, which is, for my American friends, the same company as Savers. It's just in Canada they call it Value Village. No idea why. They just do. it is one that is, because it's a corporate thrift store, I don't expect much. Corporate thrifts, anything that's really, really good, unless that off chance that it slips through, it's going to get priced high, and occasionally you might get the disgruntled employee who's like, screw it, I know this is worth X amount, but I'm just going to put it out for thrift store prices. But it doesn't happen very often anymore. They send lists out to the stores of what to look for. If they have questions about something, they can contact head office, and they will sort of appraise things for them too. So yeah, it's you might still find stuff, but the bargains are not there like they used to be. So I, the week before, had gone and found a bunch of CDs, because I still am one of those weirdos who collects CDs as well as records. And they had some decent titles. The problem is that now their CDs have gone from what used to be $1.99 across the board, with some of them being priced at $5.99 and $6.99 and $4.99. And they're not checking condition either, which is similar to what they do with the records, but so I grabbed a couple of these. I love Dinosaur Jr., seen him live twice. And I didn't actually have this one. See, it's $1.99, so I bought it. Nice clean copy. They had a copy of Green Mind, which is one of my favorite Dinosaur Jr.'s CDs. I already have it, but they had $5.99 on it, and it was scratched all over it. So that'll probably be there next one. I got the Sonic Youth Goo. I am pretty sure I already have this one too, but it was $1.99, so I'm like, $2, who cares? Teenage Fan Club Bandwagon S, one of the best records in the 90s. Doesn't often get the credit that it should. I mean, obviously for record heads, everybody sort of knows it, but across the board. But $1.99, so I grabbed that. They're all nice and clean inside, no scratches, although that case clearly has come apart as I say that. And I actually got a record, which is few and far between these days, but this is a 12-inch single from a band called The Mission. I think it's like a 1991 pressing for Butterfly on a Wheel. And interestingly enough, I have a box set that they put out that contained, I believe it was 3 singles. You bought one with the box, and then the other 2 were separate. And I think that, I haven't checked, but I think this is one of the ones that I'm missing out of that. So that was kind of a good pickup. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with that, as you would be. 1990 right there you go. And so I walked out and I headed down the street. It's about 10 minutes up the street from the Valley Village is a Salvation Army. Again, corporate store, but at least it's what I consider to be a true thrift. It has a mission other than profit. So I can sort of get behind that a little bit. Valley Village, not so much. But this April 1 record, whenever I get it, it goes out the door. It's an amazing guitar. I've always wanted one of those, and I've never seen one in the wild, as they say. So theirs are, I think, $2.99 for a record. So I picked it up. It's a nice clean copy. Other than the somebody put a $3.98 price sticker on it back in the day. So I picked that up. Pretty happy with that. The Shacklefords, kind of like folk. Poppy folk music in the 60s. Not something I would normally be that interested in, but I learned something because right there is Lee Hazelwood. For those who follow the channel, I have talked about Lee Hazelwood, how much I love his stuff, his writing, his songs, his vocal stylings, all of it. Unfortunately, I don't have any of his solo stuff yet. It's pretty difficult to track down. I have all the stuff he did with Nancy Sinatra. Apparently he was in the Shacklefords. So he produced this, wrote several of the songs, and sings on it too. So I was like, you know what? It's not in the best of shape. I gotta admit, the record is a bit beat. It'll play through no problem. The cover's in great shape, and it was, oh God, I can't even remember now. It wasn't very much. I think they're, $2.99 for vinyl at that Salvation Army still. They haven't jacked their prices up completely yet. So that was kind of a bummer. I'm perfectly happy at this point. I am like, this is, pretty good day. I got like 3 records, 3 CDs, thrift store's bonus. Then I walk around the store, have one last look, and this guy is sitting high up on a shelf in a corner. And I was compelled to go over and have a closer look. I just loved the look of it, the aesthetic of it. I'm not sure what it is about it that I enjoy so much. I do tend to, like a lot of abstract, modernist art from, the 40s, 50s, and 60s. And this kind of had that look. And I thought, it's probably a print, probably from an artist I was not super familiar with. But as I got closer and had a look, I realized, no, that's not a print. That has texture. And that is oil on board. And something about it, I don't know what it is. I'm not going to lie. I scanned down, and there is the name there. Okay, so it's dated June 1971, Miro Malish. And I was like, wow, that's, this is like a legitimate piece. And it looks really, something about it caught me. And then I saw that, $9.99. Well, $10. Of course I'm going to, give it a try. You can't lose at $10. If you find a piece of art that pulls you across a store to go look at it, $10 it's a no-brainer. The frame is kind of a hideous 1980s thing, so it has been reframed at some point. Not a thing. It is dirty, a bit dirty. I can't tell if that yellowing, I think that is actually the color palette for it, but it also might have been darkened with smoke over time. Not 100% sure. I have looked at some of his other works, and I'll get into that in a minute. And they do sort of have this color palette for a lot of the earlier works. There's some dust on here. Cleaning paintings, I will say this. It's not something that, especially for really good pieces, I would recommend doing. I would take it to a conservator every time. But there are ways to do light cleanings like this on dustings. Never use chemicals. I wouldn't even use soap and water because there are some things out on the web that said, light soap and water. I wouldn't even do that. The first thing I would do is take a piece of bread, and I know this sounds counterintuitive, especially for something like dust and light grime like what's on here, and you just gently, and I mean gently, touch. For canvas, I wouldn't even do it for canvas. This is on board, which is a little more solid, so gently touch, and it will pull that stuff up. It's quite remarkable, actually. Again, I'm no expert, and I'm sure there are conservators out there who are going, shut up! Stop telling them to ruin paintings. So again, I would always say, especially for something you suspect is quite valuable, take it to a conservator and get it looked at. This one I'm going to keep myself because I really, again, it struck me. I'm a catch and release guy. I always have been. I find things, they speak to me. I live with them for a while, and then eventually I'm kind of like, okay, we had a good relationship, it's time to move on. And I put them out in the store because I'm lucky enough to have one of those, and eventually I usually sell them. Sometimes there's a tinge of regret, like all relationships that end. But for the most part, yeah, I get out of it what I need. God, that sounds horrible. So Miro Malish, I get home and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to look him up. And there's quite a bit out there. Not a ton. He is a known artist. He was born in Czechoslovakia. Looks during sort of the Soviet era. Was educated in Europe at art schools in Europe. He went for a ceramics and sculpture degree, apparently, and then took a second degree in some form of painting as well. So educated in Europe, and then immigrated into Canada in the either late 60s or early 1970s. And he started painting right around that same period of time here. He, according to some of the things I've seen online, he had a fairly successful commercial art career. His works were used on the covers of magazines like Esquire and various other things. Apparently, Rolling Stone used some of his works. And so, you know, fairly well-known artist. Not, you know, one of the hugely massive, he's no Picasso, let's put it that way, in terms of like recognition and popularity. But, you know, for, an actual known artist. He had several shows in Ontario, Canada. I started looking up some of the prices for some of his works. And there was lots of works listed, but again, they don't always show the pricing on it. And WorthPoint had two. They had one that was a pen and ink that he had done, that was done, I think, in the 1980s. And it had, it sold for $400 in an auction, art auction, which I was like, wow, that's, you know, amazing. And then there was another one on WorthPoint that was a lot more colorful. I believe it may have been a watercolor, actually. A lot more colorful, very surrealist in style. And it was not dark like this at all. I mean, it was very colorful, really, again, much more of a surrealist vibe than this. And that sold for, I believe it was over 1,200 US in an auction. So I was like, oh my gosh. There were others there, but I couldn't manage. You know how sometimes you do your Google searches and all your other various things, and the prices aren't there. There were many that sold that didn't have prices on them. This is an early work. And because he did start painting, the earliest one I saw, but dated, was a 1970 piece. So this is June 71. So this is one of his earliest works that he was doing. I don't know what it's worth. Art is a tricky game. I have, believe it or not, I've actually had a real Warhol in the store before. And I actually have a few nicer pieces. But it's a tricky game. I've had somebody who inherited a bunch of stuff, and I sort of told them, like, you and I would never be able to get the kind of prices that you see. Art is a closed community, at least at the higher end of things, and it is all about provenance and, you know, sort of, it's almost like a marketing game about the artists. The dealers, you know, try to talk up the various stuff they have so that it becomes, you know, it's commerce at the end of the day. But I'm suspect, and I don't think it's a stretch to say that this is between probably a $500 to $1,000 painting. And again, I'm fairly confident with that. Yes, I'll have to get some of the dust off and things like that. Who knows? Because there weren't any of the ones with the pricing from his earlier works. It was his 80s and stuff that was there, and not this early stuff. So again, but I'm going to say fairly confidently that yes, I'm not clickbaiting when I put that thumbnail up. I think I got a $1,000 painting for $9.99, and there's the price tag. And I know that many now, sadly, the word isn't enough. You do have to sort of have proof. So here is my receipt for it. And you can see right there, 2 LPs, which I did have, and then housewares at $9.99. So there you go. The stuff, and yes, you know what, did I show the back? I don't think I showed the back. The back is just, again, kind of a hideous frame. It's a bit beat up. I mean, it's lived an artist's life, clearly. It's got some paint splatters all over the back and that sort of thing. Nothing really on there that tells you anything about it. It is all about the front. And there you go. So yeah, I'm probably going to be keeping this one for a while for myself because I really do like it. It's a cool looking piece. I'm sure at some point it'll probably move on out into the store, but for now I'm going to be holding on to it because I really do do enjoy it. And when you get, you know, a chance to pick up like a painting with value like this, for $10, not going to probably happen. Well, it might. You never know. And I know people are like, oh, dude, you're flexing. I think that's what the kids say. Back in the day, we called it bragging. It may be a little bit. I mean, that's what really all these YouTube videos are about at the end of the day. But it's more also along the lines of like, hey, that stuff is out there. And even though I talk down thrift stores, you know what? If you're out there and you're looking enough and you have, you know, a little bit of knowledge, you can sometimes, you know, and a lot of luck, you can get some stuff still. So here you go. I'll leave you with that. Look at that face. Look at that face only a mother could love. So, yeah. Anyways, that's my story for this week. I hope you guys are able to find some stuff when you're looking in the dusty corners. Bye.